Hey, welcome back. You know, I was thinking after I slayed my debt collection lawsuit, I still had a dilemma. Hmm. Here's my dilemma. I was thinking my case was dismissed. Then why on earth am I still looking over my shoulder? Looking over my shoulder. Did I really win my case? What's up, Slayers? Today, we are going to talk about, in this episode, we're going to talk about when your case is dismissed, did you really win? So, what we're going to discuss is how the cases are dismissed. In debt collection lawsuits, it's going to be dismissed with prejudice or it's going to be dismissed without prejudice. But you do need to know what that means. Either way, it's considered a dismissal, but there's one piece of rope that could still hang you if you're not paying attention. Okay? But first, this is Terry Jordan Adams of Sued by the Debt Collector, suedbythedebtcollector.com, where we take the debt collectors from predator to prey. Welcome back, Slayers. Now, if you have been sued by the debt collector and you don't know where to begin, but you still need help, please visit us at suedbythedebtcollector.com. We are an excellent source. And when your budget cannot afford an attorney, we got you. Make sure you visit us at suedbythedebtcollector.com. And don't forget to schedule your free case evaluation. Schedule your consultation. Text CONSULT, CONSULT, to 877-505-0618. Again, text us CONSULT to 877-505-0618. Now, what is this business where your debt collection lawsuit has been dismissed and now you have to question whether you've actually won? Well, I'm glad you asked. Get my glasses on. All right. I don't need them right now. Right out the gate, what we're going to talk about is the difference between being dismissed with prejudice and being dismissed without prejudice. Okay? Being dismissed with prejudice, what that means is the debt collection lawsuit is forever dead. Dead. Excuse me. They cannot come back and refile the debt collection lawsuit. Okay? So once it's dismissed with prejudice, it can never be refiled again. Typically, that doesn't happen often, but maybe in a case where they filed the lawsuit and it was actually past the statute of limitations and they were called on the carpet, and maybe they recognized it was going to be dismissed any way you look at it and they were not going to be able to refile. That's a good example as to why a case would be dismissed with prejudice. Full well knowing, one, they shouldn't have filed it to begin with, and two, it's going to get dismissed, so why go through the process? Understand that it is a business for them, so it's got to make business sense because they're in it for profit. Okay, and then let's not also forget that typically they do not include the purchase and sale agreement when they file these lawsuits, because it says that the original creditor does not attest to the accuracy of the accounts that are being sold. And it also states that the sale is subject to the terms and conditions of the agreement. And they don't want you to know what those terms and conditions are. Okay, so that's a big deal. Now, so I am going to kind of leave that where that's at, and I'm going to move on to being dismissed without prejudice, because more often than not, when debt collectors dismiss cases, it's usually without prejudice. What does that mean? Well, glad you asked. When the debt collection lawsuit is dismissed without prejudice, like all of my cases were, well, I asked the judge for one to be dismissed with prejudice, but when it says it's dismissed without prejudice, what that means is they can come back and they can refile that same lawsuit. They reserve the right to do that. Okay. But like I told LD when we were having our conversation, yes, they can come back, but they couldn't handle you where you're at now. That's why they dismissed the case. Oh, we were not ready for trial. Baloney. They were trying to save face, because LD, she slayed her debt collection lawsuit. Shout out Slayer, LD. Amazing job. So they had to save face so that they could back down, whatever. Now, so when it is dismissed without prejudice, yes, you absolutely have won your case. But in the beginning, when I talked about that piece of rope, you have to be careful. They have reserved the right to refile. And what that refiling time frame looks like is the statute of limitations. Okay? So typically in California, they file the lawsuit, and then in the lawsuit, it'll tell you when the alleged default happened. It'll tell you when your alleged last payment was made. And then they'll tell you that's the default date. It should be in there. Okay. California, 4 years, 4 in our statute of limitations. But what happens is when they dismiss without prejudice, they have a certain amount of time to refile. Because they dropped the case, they would in essence have to start over, but the statute of limitations is still in place. If they refile the lawsuit after that statute of limitations, then that's grounds for it to be dismissed. And then with prejudice, it will never be able to be refiled again. That's a good example. Okay. It will be forever dead. But just to give you an idea of what I went through when I was going through my lawsuits, it was during COVID time, and my case was dismissed. But here's the problem. The economy was shutting down. The court systems were shutting down. The public was not allowed to go into the court systems. And then they were working on skeleton crew. And then they were having major delays, months, in updating the court's website. So even, how I always tell you, you got to monitor your case. You got to, check in on your case just once a week just to see if there's any activity or whatever. Well, I couldn't really do that because they were working on skeleton crew and they were not updating the information frequently enough. So what ended up happening, So what ended up happening is they made a special exception. Oh man, their phone is tipping over. So they made a special exception concerning cases that were being dismissed. They added 5 months, I believe it was 5 months, to the statute of limitations. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. They filed a lawsuit. They served me. I responded to the lawsuit. There was no activity thereafter. And now when the case was dismissed, now I had to wait an extra 5 months in order for it to never be enforceable. Remember that statute of limitations episode I did? How I talked about that at that point the debt is unenforceable? Well, one of my cases, I remember it was dismissed, and I was already waiting a couple of months because come May, it was supposed to be done. If they hadn't filed it by May, then the statute of limitations was over. Well, because of COVID, they added 5 months. So I had to wait until October to see if they were going to refile. But they didn't. So, dead. Forever dead. They cannot go back and refile a lawsuit against me. It's forever and ever and ever and ever, ever dead. Okay? So going back to my point, with prejudice means it's forever dead. Dismissed without prejudice means they can still go back and refile that same lawsuit up to the time that the statute of limitations does not expire. So yes, you did win your case, but take the next couple of months and just keep verifying that nothing is refiled against you. Otherwise, if they do, you have to start the process over. You got to respond. It's another lawsuit. You got to start over again. So anyway, this is Terry Jordan Adams of Sued by the Debt Collector, suedbythedebtcollector.com, and we will catch you in the next episode. See you later, Slayers.